Let's talk about your sacral.
Where the hell is your sacral?
Well, anatomically speaking, your sacral is the base of your spine, kind of high up where your hip bones ride, but, you know, towards your back. And within the energetic and subtle anatomies, that location tends to kind of be about where your navel's at or just below. There's also a way of considering that if your pelvis is kind of a bowl shape, that it's kind of sitting above the bowl, kind of like where a cherry would sit on a sundae. So how is your sacral important to your subtle anatomy, and what does it do? So your sacral lives within what I consider the seat of instinct. It's in the lower half of the body, and that is where we really connect to life and living and all of the fun, wonderful things about being in a body. Energetically speaking, this is also a place where we typically can consider us forging energy for the rest of our body. You can also consider that it is the sort of oven of life, what we experience when we're eating good chocolate or drinking wine or having fun. It's the party center of the body, realistically, and that experience that we gather in life is what feeds the entirety of our subtle anatomy. In most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, this is the lived experience area that sort of predisposes you to what energies you're inputting and outputting. Your sacral is also wonderful creative energy, problem-solving energy. It wants to experience and it wants to explore. And coming from that lower part of our body, it's also really connected to different types of movement. People who are very powerful in this area typically like dance, for instance, or they like to move energy with lived experience. Artists are also known to sort of have abundance of energy in this space. A lack of energy in this space typically means that other energy centers in the body will attempt to compensate to bring in different forms of energy to sort of level out the lack in this area. Most notably, I feel like the heart typically, and oddly enough, tries to compensate for sacral deactivity by generating more connections. This can also sometimes read as individuals who may try and stir up a little drama to make there be a little bit more active movement and energy. Or individuals who compensate from a root space are very practical and may become very structured in how they're trying to navigate life. These are very broad generalizations and not necessarily applicable to everybody. So what can you do to really gather in and live in a place of wonderful sacral energy? Well, have fun. This energy center is really about having lived experience. And the more fun that you allow yourself to have, the more play that you allow yourself to have, the more of that energy can sort of build up and be used throughout the subtle anatomy. Artists, for example, typically feel more creative after they've had some sort of experience in order to draw from. For example, I often go out on nature walks, and then when I return, I feel a boost of creativity because I've given myself some lived experience to draw. But it's not just as easy as taking a walk. It could be having a party, going out, observing something, experiencing something you've never tried before, having a good meal. It's simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. And when you sit in the power of your sacral in this way, you will find that you have more energy that can move throughout your body. And it has a sort of bottom-up effect of really inspiring your center of self at your solar plexus. It can then move into your heart, where you feel like you have a lot more to give, a lot more space that you can hold for others, for instance, or an ability to connect deeper and to more people than you thought you had capacity for before. You might find yourself drawn to move more and be more active. Walking meditations, when you're tuning into your sacral energy, are really potent and very powerful. I highly recommend them. You can do one of these walking meditations by focusing on that energy and allowing it to move both up your body and down towards your feet. And this just really engages the entirety of the body, but it comes from a place of experience, being present, being in the moment. When I see splits in the sacral space, it is definitely and most often from a place of too many things that you want to focus on. And in this way, the splits don't necessarily read as negatives. They definitely read more into the space of too many pokers in the fire. I've seen individuals in my readings that have 10 or even 12 different points within their sacral. They kind of read as splits, but they're not splits. They're all working in harmony together. It's just this CPU is running nature hikes, and this CPU is running art, and this CPU is running delicious food times with friends, etc. Or like different hobbies or connected to different things. It's such a versatile area of the body because it is the now. I hope that gives you some reference for this interesting part of our subtle anatomy. And if you have any questions, let me know. Or if you want any more information on how you can utilize your sacral energy, again, just reach out. How do you work with your root?
My what and where?
Your root, the base of your spine and the bottom of your floor muscles in your body is where your root and your energetic or subtle body or your soul sits. You may have heard of your root being critical for your ability to ground, which it is, but our root is so much more complex than that. So let's get into some of the interesting details regarding our root. Your root, in my practice, is the seat of instinct. It is the lowest point on the subtle anatomy, is the bottom energy center, and it connects directly into the physical world around us. It is imperative to grounding and feeling grounded, but it is also an energy center that helps cleanse the body and to help release excess energies. There's also a lot of misconceptions about a root, that it is the only place that we can ground from, and it is not. That said, many individuals struggle with grounding, and it is a challenge because sometimes grounding takes different forms and shapes, depending on what's going on with your root. For instance, some individuals find that their root doesn't really connect into their legs, or they might not really present with energetic legs, which is a thing that can happen. How do you ground? In my readings with clients who have issues or just have very interesting roots that need a little assistance, I like to tell them the phrase, ass to grass. And that is mostly because sometimes it's easier to ground in the more traditional method into the earth by putting their root on the earth. And because this energy center is so very connected to our environment and the physical being of being human, it also makes sense to bring that energy center to the place on which we live, Earth. So if you are somebody who struggles with grounding in a more traditional method down through the legs and feet, perhaps sitting on some grass might help you. What's going on energetically? Well, our root helps to clear out excess energies. So if we consider our energy body as energy sort of moves and cycles through our body, it is the last stop before an exit can occur. It also means that this area becomes really interesting when it comes to lower GI problems. And this is a space where our physical body and our energetic body have some weird overlaps. In some cases, the physical can affect the metaphysical, and the reverse is true as well. The metaphysical can, in fact, hurt, harm, or influence the physical. Because our energy system as a whole generates a field of energy around us in a torus shape, which is kind of think like a weird donut, the energy comes down through the form and then out through the bottom of our pelvis and our floor muscles, and often through our legs into the earth, or the field itself can just extend down into the earth. It doesn't necessarily need legs. Our root also acts as an anchor for most of our energetic body and is one of the more grounding and stabilizing energy centers for our center of self more often than not. You can really exercise your root as well and be more powerful in your root by doing physical activities and really connecting to the physical spaces around you. And in general, I find that this area of our energy body gets neglected more and more often in our modern day and age, since so much of our lives are focused inside and kind of more in a place from our mind, being on computers, talking online, and doing that sort of work. Practices such as walking, exercising, doing dance, stretching, yoga, these sorts of exercises really help a lot in order to exercise our root as well and help the energy flow through us. And many people neglect this area because they don't understand its impact on the whole subtle system. If your root is sick or isn't able to process through and handle, manage, and deal with excess energies in the body in a manner to release them, then our whole system gets sluggish and backed up. If the only places in your subtle body are from the chest up that you focus on and you neglect the chest down, I have news for you, it's going to catch up. So I highly suggest focusing on good root work and enjoying things in life and being present and really connecting that sacral and that root energy together. I hope this quick little deep dive on a root has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to message me anytime. Happy to answer them. And if you're really curious about your subtle system and what's going on with your energy centers in your body, feel free to book a session with me. Until next time, see ya.